Good evening, friends and family, and thank you for coming to another night with Repair, Restore, and Grow Black Communities. And tonight we have another very important guest in our community. This is Nubian, and Nubian is going to be talking to us about firearm training and awareness. It is the Aban Advantage Consulting, and it's about being ready. And so I know a lot of people have your own concealed and carry weapons, and then there are many people who have thought about it and have no clue what this is all about. And so Nubian will be able to talk to us about all of that tonight. So I know Nubian told me before we just came on, he has a early night. And so I want to thank you for taking time out to be with us today.
Absolutely. Good to be here, sister. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. So, as you know, family, we are a nonprofit organization and we work diligently to enhance the awareness and support of Black businesses in our communities. And that is because our businesses help to enhance the awareness and they help to circulate those dollars in our community. And we're so often spending our money with businesses in our community who have no interest other than to make money off of us. And so that money goes out. It goes out to build other communities and to support other causes. And it's the reason a lot of our communities here in Chicago on the west side and the south side are looking like they're looking, irregardless of the fact that we have many politicians that should be doing a better job of supporting us. But this is what we're dealing with. So here we're saying, let's support Black businesses. And as you know, we are great supporters of our bookstores because reading is knowledge.
Mm.
And as I was telling Nubian, and I tell you every week, we used to have 22 Black bookstores here in Chicago, and that means a lot of people were reading. And it was they dwindled down to two or three, but there's been a resurgence of Black bookstores. And all you have to do is go to our website at rrgbc.org, and we have those bookstores listed. And we go a step further in enhancing the awareness and support of our bookstores. It seems like we lost Nubian here. Let's see what happened.
Hear you.
Okay, so enhancing the awareness and support of our bookstores, we have a book giveaway. And so the bookstore that is our bookstore of the month still is Afriware Books.
Mm.
And you can support Afriware Books at afriware.com. And also, if you want to actually go and pick the books up in hand, just contact afriware.com and they have a wonderful selection of books for adults, books for children, and other items that you can purchase in their online store. And we have our book of the month that we're giving away, and this is the book that Afriware Books chose, Asada Shakur, her autobiography by Asada Shakur. And so if you want to win a copy of that book, all you have to do is go to rrgbc.org and subscribe. And if we select your name, we will make it possible for you to have a copy. You will receive a copy of that book at our cost. All we ask is that you read the book
Mm.
and you share the knowledge. And then we are supporting our Southside Community Federal Credit Union, who has been in our community for over 20 years, providing financial and economic support. We need more Black banks, and that's another way to circulate dollars. And many of us have our dollars in banks uh, who are not reciprocating in terms of loans and services and resources that banks could provide. But the Southside Community Federal Credit Union has done a yeoman's job at working to help our community. They provide financial literacy classes. They have checking and savings accounts, youth accounts, small business accounts, credit cards, and different types of loans, payroll loans, uh, payday advance loans, which with much lower interest rates than these payday loan stores that are out here now, which get people caught up in a cycle of borrowing that you can't get out of often. There's signature loans, credit builder loans, and they have new and used car loans and micro business loans. So they are located in the mall at 55th and Wentworth. So we ask that you open up an account. This is how banks thrive, by us opening up an account. So we put our money in these banks. These banks use those dollars to invest, and we should be getting something back from that level of investment as well. So please support the Southside Community Federal Credit Union. And then you can also go to our website where you can make a donation to our organization to support the efforts that we're doing. And that is at rrgbc.org. Okay, so Nubian, um, firearm training and awareness. Why is this training important? And we want to hear this from someone who is an expert in this field. You have different people might say, um, I want to have a firearm to protect myself. I want to have a firearm because it's bad out here, because it's dangerous out here. Um, but why is this training important?
So firearms training is important. My mother raised me under the concept that it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. In the latter years of my life, I was introduced to a concept by I think it was a Japanese warrior, who said that it's better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war, right? In a war. And so when we think about firearms training, is a good thing to have the firearm in itself, right? Just to have a firearm. And then it's a better thing to have a firearm and then being able to be proficient with it. And so, unfortunately, far too many people think that having a gun, right, is enough, and that when it's time to shoot, I will shoot straight. And that's a huge misconception, just a huge misconception. And and in that statement, they also do not think about the consequences of what we would call collateral damage, right? Those
Mm-hmm.
things that we shoot that we was not intending to shoot, you're
Mm-hmm.
still going to be responsible for every bullet that come out of your gun. And so it would behoove you to get the necessary training from an instructor that understands accountability, holds you to a high level of accountability every time you press that trigger, right? Know where that round is going to land. And so when you start thinking about firearms training, this is a thing of that, not just. So let me just back up just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Firearms training, I think, starts with the understanding that your greatest weapon is your mind. And
Mm-hmm.
as Ed Monk says,
Okay, so we dropped. Okay, let's get you back.
I'm saying you could not do any of those things. And so it becomes a thing of where this is my last resort and let me deal with this, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so if we have, when we think about firearms training, if you say the statement again, like I was saying earlier, that I'll rise to the occasion when it comes. You know what I'm saying? I got this.
Mm-hmm.
I'll figure it out when it happens. That
Mm-hmm.
shows us as firearms instructors, those of us that do this at a very high level, those of us that talk about accountability, having a high level of accountability. It lets us know right off the bat that, truth be told, that you do not have the emotional maturity or the intellectual maturity to actually be in possession of a firearm, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Yep.
So there comes a huge responsibility with having a firearm. And we've heard of, so many accidents that have occurred with the firearms in the home. I remember my uncle was a Vietnam veteran, and he told me one time a lot of people are getting shot out here because you have people that don't know how to shoot. You know, they're just
Absolutely.
they're just shooting. They don't know how to handle that gun. And so in your training, what is it that you impart to people that's important, that they need to know in terms of having a gun?
Yep. And so what is it? Four primary basic firearm rules, right? And one of those rules is know what's beyond your target, right? That is to know what's the safest direction for you to point your gun at any given time? That is the muzzle of your gun, right? So that you know, because you have to keep in mind that round coming out of that gun, that bullet coming out of that gun, would
Mm-hmm.
never hit anything that it wasn't aimed at, right? Now that's not to say that you wasn't aiming at it, but with the final place, resting place of that round is exactly where your gun was aimed at. And so again, when you start thinking about training, you get an understanding of what that actually means. That if I'm shooting at a target that's this big and I hit this target over here or any place else and I was aiming here, truth be told, by the time that gun went off, over here is where it was aimed at, right? And so it's the same thing of when you're shooting in self-defense. The final resting place of that round, there was a young man out on the south side who had just got shot by a guy at a liquor store. He was doing security or something. He got shot at a liquor store doing security. He supposedly took a gun off a concealed carry holder, shooting at the guy as he was going down the block. The guy that had just shot him in the leg, I think it was. He
Mm-hmm.
completely missed this guy, but he hit a lady a block and a half away and killed her. I want to say that this sister was a mother and maybe even a grandmother, had nothing to do with anything that was happening, but took her life. And how and why is that? Primarily and outside of him shooting someone that had completely disengaged, being illegal in itself, but more importantly, his inability to hit his target, right? And so, a big emphasis when you train with our brain advantage is that we stress that when you press that trigger, you need to be sure that you're hitting what you think you're aiming at. You know what I'm saying? Making sure that your
Mm-hmm.
gun is aimed, because wherever it's aimed, that's where that round is going to go. And so, there are, some different things to take into consideration when you're talking about aiming and making sure that your rounds are on target. But I can't stress it enough, high levels of accountability comes with training with us. And anybody that you're training with, if they telling you, well, that's okay, that ain't that bad, or whatever, and you can see for yourself that it's not where you was aiming at, you should really find another instructor, right? Because you have to have an instructor that holds you to a high level of accountability to prevent the incidents like that, innocent children being hit and things of that nature.
Would you say that more people are shot out of, well, I guess, accidents than actually intending to be shot?
Probably not. Probably not.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times when we have two, if maybe three areas of people getting shot, right? We have the negligence shooting, right? The accident, the mishandling of the firearm. We
Hmm.
have then those that's actually shot intentionally. This is who I was trying to shoot. This is who I shot, and we see that a lot, right? And then we also have those incidents where the young lady who was killed a block and a half away from the liquor store, or even a young lady several years ago where two guys was in a fight, a gunfight, and one of them shot and his round went clear across the street and hit the lady in the arm, severing her brachial artery, and she bled out. And so we then have those, and so if we look at those, I would
Okay, I think we lost them all together. Hold on a second.
get where they are the target, and the round finds its target.
Hmm.
Absolutely. However, those that get hit accidentally, right, are more sensational for the news, and so we get much greater coverage of that, unfortunately.
Okay. So, what can
But
possibly,
you know what?
I'm
And
sorry, go
let me
ahead.
just say this, if I may. But one person being shot and they was not the intended target is one too many. Let me make sure that I stress that. Absolutely.
Okay. And that's an important point because we hear about it so much. People are seemingly getting numb, to hearing about people get shot. There's so much violence in general in our culture, in our country today, and we hear things that happen to people that we should be more concerned about. But it's happening so often. Uh, people are not alarmed about it enough to try to do more about it to create prevention around it.
Hmm.
So I think that's very important. The other question I wanted to ask, as you mentioned about the responsibility of this weapon, what can happen to people? What are some of the scenarios when you shoot someone? What are some of the ultimate scenarios in terms of your responsibility? If you shoot someone and they were coming after you, you shot someone by mistake. Uh, what are some of the scenarios that you could find yourself in?
Yep. Oh, those could range very wide. Everything from so we start from those that we have to shoot, right? And so I have a understanding, it's like a 4 point understanding, and these understandings happens in quarter of a second, right? And you have to make these split decisions, and you have to make these your best choice decision just based on the information that you have. The first one is, and we'll look at your question again, as we have about three different situations. Okay, first of all, I have to shoot somebody. Um, does the law support it, right? And then that's going to look like something in itself, right? I thought I needed to shoot somebody and I didn't, and the law do not support it, right? That is use of lethal force, or justifiable use of lethal force, or unjustifiable use lethal force, or I was actually shooting somebody who deserve to be shot, and well, not even deserve to be shot, because that's shady, right? But that legitimately, yes, I was in the right to shoot them. The law supported it, but I missed them and I hit somebody else, right? And whether I killed them or not, there are different legal ramifications for each of those. But one of the things outside of shot placement and hitting your target, letting your rounds land on target, is a 4 point consideration that I would like to share. The first point is, can I do this? Can I take the shot? Right? This is not a question of legality as much as it is a question of your capability. Have you trained enough under situations that you know the distance that you can effectively put shots on target, right? And so that's the first question you have to ask yourself. Do my skill set allow for me to shoot this individual at the distance that they're at right now? The second question I have to ask myself, and again, all of these are happening in quarter of a seconds, right? The second question I have to ask myself is, does the law support me shooting this individual? Is this situation at a place where, yes, legally I have the right to shoot this individual? And in the state of Illinois, and this changes through the states, and so you need to be aware of use of lethal force as is outlined by the state, right? Because you can't
Mhm.
take Illinois laws to Texas and vice versa, right? And so, or to Indiana, Michigan, and so just keep that in mind. The second question, the third, excuse me, question is, should I shoot them? should I shoot them? And so again, can I do it? Yep. I have the ability to put shots on placement from this distance. May I do it? Yep. The law fully supports this, but should I do it? Right? I'm going to take this slow and give this person a good opportunity to make a last decision. And then that final question I have to ask myself is, must I shoot them? And so in that third stage, should I shoot them? And me giving them that final opportunity to make that decision or to make that action that demands that I must shoot them, then yes, by all means, I start, pressing the trigger, sights on target, and start pressing the trigger. And so when you run through those four of those and you start thinking about what comes after that, I did everything that I was supposed to do. The law supported everything that I did, right? If you followed all four of those and you got all four of those boxes checked, you're in a pretty good place. And I mean, there's five elements of lethal
Okay.
at those four. As we start dealing with these other situations that you're talking about that we could find ourselves in, we have to know that anytime we use a firearm, rather we at a gas station and we realize that something is unfolding, and yup, I pull my firearm up, keep it at a low rating, making sure that I'm not pointing it at anyone, and I say, hey, gentlemen, come on now, let's do something different tonight. Again, giving them an opportunity to do something different. I need to call the police then and let them know that I just pulled my firearm on three guys and this was the situation for it, right? And so, but I'm going to always have an interaction with law enforcement anytime a firearm is involved. And it will be responsible, as crazy as it sounds, to go and make that phone call, because what you don't want to happen is for them to go around the corner and make that phone call that this crazy dude just pulled a gun on me. Refusing to tell them that they had the left flanked you, right flanked you, with hoods on their head, and then start moving towards you, right? That's to
Mm-hmm.
let me draw my gun, not point it at anybody, but let them know that I'm armed right away and I'm prepared to take these next few steps. And so, if you have to shoot someone, you're going to have to be interviewed by the police because they need to make sure that it was a justifiable use of lethal force, right? If that person happened to die, there's going to be a cascade of experiences that you have. And this is outside of the legal fight. You're going to have highs and lows. You're going to have you're going to have extremes in different parts of your life, in your daily activity. You're going to have what do they call that? Survivor's regret. You're going to have a wide range of psychological thoughts in your head, especially if it's a young person. That young man could have been the next Malcolm X, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so your mind is going to play all of these different games with you because you have taken a life, right? And not doing this on a regular, i.e., being a killer, this is going to be very traumatic for you. And while we, what's the word, shun seeing therapists in the Black community, we
Mm-hmm.
highly recommend that if you ever have to shoot somebody, go and talk to a professional. Get you a higher level of assistance from a professional dealing with what it is that you're dealing with and what it is that you're going through. Absolutely.
So, because it's going to be a stressful situation, just the act itself, the impact that that's going to have, and then having to deal with the legal system about it, um, and then you could end up imprisoned.
Absolutely, big time, big time. And your shooting can be just completely justifiable, and you could have all of the boxes checked, right? But if you can't afford a quality and what are they, attorney? Excuse me. If you can't afford a quality attorney, if you do not have what we call concealed carry insurance, right, where they'll provide your attorney for you, it becomes extremely expensive, right? And
Hmm.
so, an attorney is one of those things you get what you pay for. And so you could have done everything right, just about met all of the five elements of self defense and everything, and let the prosecutor do a better job or a more believing job than your attorney. You most certainly can spend 10, 15, 20 years in prison. Absolutely.
Wow. Hmm. So people need to understand that there's a huge responsibility that comes along with having a weapon.
Absolutely.
Who who are typically the people that show up at your trainings?
So for me, I primarily market to the black community, right?
Hmm.
I primarily because that's just my demographics. That's who my friend groups are and things of that nature. I have had other ethnic groups show up at my training: Koreans, Europeans, Puerto Ricans, Hispanics, right? But very few and far between, right? And then when you start looking at the age demographics. I get everything from those that just made 21 to those that's 65 and 70 years old. But I would probably be inclined to say the typical age is in the middle 45 to 55, somewhere up in there. And it's usually more women than men. And again, men already think they done figured it out. We've been playing with guns and holsters all of our lives. And so I don't need to go get no instruction. And I can attest that at least 8 out of 10 times women outshoot first time shooter women outshoot men 8 out of 10 times, like clockwork, every time. And there's a reason for that, though. Absolutely.
What's the reason for it?
Again, men have been playing with guns and holsters, and they figure they don't watch John Wick 1 through 5 3 times each,
Hmm.
right? Women come to the class and they understand that this is something that I'm not familiar with. Let me pay attention and let me do exactly what this man asked me to do, and do it. And while the man is still playing with his memory, right, and what he think he knows, and even if he's never shot a gun a day in his life, he still come there with a concept that he got this, right.
Hmm.
And so the women, through paying attention and executing what has outperformed me in shooting. I actually have a husband and wife. Y'all don't worry, I'm not going to say y'all name.
Okay, we have some connection. Okay, I wonder if he
In
knew.
both instances, that, but in both instances of these husband and wives attending class together, the wife outshot the man. And as I'm thinking about this now, I can honestly say at least three that instantly come to mind where the wives outshot their husband. And I even had one husband that I'm looking forward to seeing this video. I'll make sure I send him the link. He even tried to tell me that my firearm, the one that he was shooting with, was broke. Something was wrong with it.
Oh, something
So
wrong with the
just
firearm,
let me
not
know who
him.
you are, brother. But yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. So when people are looking at getting training for this conceal and carry, what should they look for in a trainer? You know, the program that they're getting ready to get
Yep.
engaged with.
Yep. And unfortunately, today we are a very media savvy people, right? Society is, and so it's to a large degree, it's like whoever have the biggest presence on social media, which I have like close to no presence on social media.
Hmm.
So people flock to those people because you're being put before them, and so I understand that. But when you're looking for an instructor, you need to check an instructor's credential. Who has he trained with? How much training has he or she had? Stop believing that because people are police officers or military or former military people, they are good at teaching firearms instruction, that they have a good understanding of critical self-defense, because concealed carry is like a basic introduction to firearms. And then the other piece is, do that instructor have any other classes beyond concealed carry that they can teach? Because if they start and stop at concealed carry, I I compare that to when you have your child that's like a really good math person in fifth grade, and the math teacher cannot teach high school math, but they teaching your child fifth grade math. And so when your child comes up with a problem that's beyond their understanding or beyond their capability of teaching, right? Now it stunts the child's growth, right? And we see this a lot inside of school where you will have a teacher there that have a limited understanding of the subject matter, and the child can actually ask questions or interrogate things at a greater level than the teacher can provide instruction on. And it's the
Mhm.
same thing with firearms. And so again, another thing to look for is all of that they offer per firearms training is concealed carry, then it's probably because they are not familiar with enough information on the other side of that. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so that's one of the things. Um, look for people who have a positive attitude inside of the community, and that they're not what's the word I want to use respectfully? They're not slithering around. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
If they are upright people inside of the community, you can probably trust that you're going to have an upright experience with training with them. Because I've seen some firearms instructor that literally slithers when they move, and I'm like, man, I
Mhm.
can't imagine needing to have to train with somebody like that, you know. But yeah, yep.
And outside of also their being certified themselves or licensed themselves,
Oh,
um,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
Also, uh, yeah, if they're being, yeah, yeah. Or also, I wanted to ask if they're insured, because you're getting involved in this class, and I'm sure there's class work, and then there's the actual training, hands-on training. So should the
Absolutely.
person have insurance or?
Hmm. And so when you mentioned license, right? So you can't teach concealed carry in the state of Illinois without being licensed through the Illinois State Police. And
Mhm.
so you have different organizations that can certify you, and then you'll take that certification to the Illinois State Police, very similar to what people who's applying for concealed carry do. So like for myself, I had to take I think it was a 2 day course, which is a basic intro to the pistol course with the NRA, and there's other formations that offer it. I had ended up going through the NRA, and then at that point, you have to submit that paperwork to the Illinois State Police to become a licensed instructor with the state. And so, in order
Mhm.
to teach concealed carry, you have to have those licenses. There's no way of going around that, because if not, once I, as a student, submit my certification that you, as an instructor, gave me, and they don't have you in the database, excuse me, I just wasted my time and my money. And so, yeah. And then again, the insurance, making sure, and a lot of this stuff, you, so two things. One, a lot of what makes a good instructor, you won't know if you've never had an opportunity to be with a good instructor, because everything seems, oh, this is so amazing. This is so incredible. This dude is so smart, right?
Mhm.
But once you train with a actual, what I would call a qualified or you know, a really high level instructor, you'll realize that many of your other instructors is like, they don't know what they're doing. They don't do safety checks in the beginning. They do not do a safety plan in the beginning. There's a lot of things they have a over ratio of students to instructor. They're trying to teach a class with 300 people in there, with one or two instructors. They have their students handling firearms for the first time when they go to the range, and all of these types of things. And so these, for an experienced instructor or an experienced student, are red flags. But if you have never taken a class, then you don't recognize this to be wrong, if that makes sense. And so,
Okay.
so that's a big piece in trying to identify a quality instructor. And unfortunately, because your friends don't know too much more than you, when they say, "Oh, this no, this guy know his stuff," right? They don't know no more than you. They don't really know what to expect, and so,
Mhm.
and so that becomes a big piece of it. And again, when you talk to people, and they tell you, and you're trying to get them to take an additional class, don't stop at concealed carry. Do that instructor
Mhm.
offer something other than concealed carry? Did that instructor tell you you good and ready to go now? Because that's a fallacy. You know what I'm saying? It's a fallacy. If you think that one 16-hour class is a good enough class to get you ready for a deadly confrontation, there's so much more to it than that.
Mhm.
And so, yeah. But again, you would not know that if you do not know what a good instructor is. Yep,
And then there's ongoing training, I would assume. You take the
absolutely.
class and you have the weapon, but you don't just let it sit there. So how often should somebody be going to the firing range, or what should they
Yep.
be doing?
Yep. So shooting is a perishable skill. We use the word perishable because it will disintegrate over time. And so, what we really like to recommend for people to do is to try to get to the range at least once a week. Go to the range with a focus or something that you're working on, right? And I actually do an online class that how to maximize your range time, right? Because the
Mm-hmm.
range can be, extremely if not necessarily expensive, because that's always relative to people. But it can be rough trying to squeeze it in. You got your regular 9 to 5 or whatever it is that you do. You have your children, you have your, other things that you're doing. And so you have to try to squeeze the range in. But get to the range on average once a week, maybe twice a month, once every week or whatever, just to really stay abreast of your ability to shoot, right? Take additional classes. Know that concealed carry cannot be your final stop. Um,
So what are
find
some
out
of
what. Uh-huh.
the additional classes like?
So, yeah, for my business alone, we have what we call OLDS, and that's online developmental sessions. And so we do those. Um, We have honing the fundamentals, which is a class is a class of assessing what you have right and things that you can improve upon. We transition in that class to take you from basic range practice to start thinking about critical self defense, and so
Mhm.
just kind of lean you towards that. The next class on the other side of that we have is called concealed, willed, and skilled, and all of these classes are prerequisites to the next class, right? Because they build on the following class. And so with concealed, willed, and skilled, we really turn it up a notch. This is the first class that we actually draw from the holster and do 90% of our shooting where we're drawing from the holster because we're carrying concealment. That should be expected, right? And then we have another class called fluid fighting, and all of these are live fire classes. Fluid fighting, 90% of all of the shooting is done with movement. Again, because we do not necessarily want to be standing still when we're in a gunfight. We need to know what that looks like. Exploding and making something harder, that is yourself, to hit. We also have non-shooting classes. I have an awesome class that's called Read Your Work, and what this class is that you are given a situation through an image, and we need you to act it out. After you act it out and go through everything, that is from the actions of making your what the excuse me, the creator of the program calls making your first best decision. Right? What is this going to be like? Um, you do that and you carry it through all the way to after you have done it, and then you making the phone call to the police. And so when we go through that, and people find that extremely informative and quite an experience, because all of these classes do the one thing that your imagination can never really do for you, and that's remove the novelty, the newness of having to do this and then follow a procedure to get to the end of it, right? And so, yeah, we have a wide range of classes, though. We also have an all black women shooting club, Soul Sister
Mm.
Shooting Club. It's strictly reserved for black women. We do hold classes, other many of these other classes that all women are invited to. But sisters had came to me some years ago and said we need a space as black women that we can, be our authentic selves and engage this
Mhm.
process. And so that was what gave life to Soul Sister Shooting Club.
Okay. Okay. So when someone comes to class, um, what do they need to come to class with? What? they're expected to have.
Yep. So with the concealed carry class, we provide everything. We provide the firearm, the ammunition, your range, your targets, your learning material, learning equipment, and we even throw in on Saturdays a continental style breakfast. Now, when you start dealing with your other classes, those classes that's beyond concealed carry, so the only thing with a concealed carry class a person is asked to bring is a hat with a bib. Be sure to own and be sure to wear pants with belt loops with a solid belt because we actually put a holster on them during the concealed carry class and we teach them how to draw that is to get their firearm from a position of cover or concealment, excuse me, a cover garment and putting that gun in between them and that threat, right? And we do that dry. At my class, we do that dry. We run that dry, but we make sure that they understand that that's what's involved in getting access to that gun and putting that gun in the fight, if you will. And so for the concealed carry class, we provide just about everything. For other classes, we will rent or provide firearms. You are responsible for your own ammunition at that point, right? And then of course registration fee and anything that you need. And again, this goes back to that class of dealing that online class, that online developmental session of maximizing your range experience. Because we also do this with classes like what's the best type of clothing to wear to classes to maximize your experience. But at that point, because we can provide the firearm if they need it, we can provide the firearm to rent. But they will need to purchase their own ammo and have all of their other safety equipment. We also provide with the concealed carry class their eyes and their ears. Once you start training, we really recommend that you start getting all of that stuff, all of those items for your personal use. Again, going back to your point that you said earlier, if you're going to the range, you should be going to the range A with your own gun and then B with your own eyes and ears, right? And so, in doing that, as you start taking these higher level courses and getting better at getting yourself what we call be ready, right? Being ready, you should be working with your own equipment at that point because you need to be familiar with your equipment, right? And so, and just depending on what class you're taking, some of those things change, but you're always going to need a hat, your eyes and ears, your firearm, your holster, your concealment garment, your cover garment, and your firearm. Absolutely.
So, how do you choose what bet? Obviously, you have the weapons there for the training, certain type of gun there for the training. But how do you
Hmm.
choose what type of weapon is best for you?
Yep. So I am not what's the what sponsored by. I am not sponsored by Glock, but I am a Glock shooter, and I highly recommend Glock for a wide range of reasons. And Glock have two primary types of guns. We're not talking about caliber, that is 9 millimeter, 45, 380, that type of thing. We're not talking about that right now. But they have what's known as a double stack that's a little bit thicker and a single stack that's a little bit thinner. And so that's where I like to really start with the firearm. 9 millimeter is the standard round that I encourage people to get. There are other effective calibers that each of them all have their pros and cons, right? But so I recommend the 9 millimeter Glocks primarily, right? Makes it's just a wide range of reasons for the Glock, as I said before, and then just try to make a determination if a single stack gun with a full grip will work good for you, or if a double stack gun with a full grip would work well for you. A lot of times, husbands tell their wives, you just need something small, right? It's not the case. Other times, husbands tell their wives, baby, you need something big, so that, it's not the case. You always want to be able to get a gun that you can manipulate
Hmm.
the accessories on the guns, the safety or whatever may be on the gun. And so those are a wide range of different things that you go through with different people. And no two people are the same. And so you have to try to find the proper Glock for them to use,
Okay.
but no, for the proper gun. And so when we train, even with concealed carry, we have 4 different Glocks for them to try. And even if they don't choose to go with a Glock, we direct them just based on their hand size and their ability, their dexterity of their fingers and whatnot. Some
Mm-hmm.
gun of that size that they would then be able to use, even if they do not choose a Glock. Absolutely.
Okay. Wow. So, what topics do you cover in your classes?
Yep. So with the concealed carry class, I would have to say that just keep in mind that we have 16 hours to be with these people, right? These people being these students, right? Our clients, right? And so we have 16 hours to be with them. The basic NRA pistol course can be done in 4 to 6 hours, no more than 8 hours. So the question then becomes, what do we give them with the other 8 hours? Unfortunately, there are people who bring other people in to talk about things that might be important, but it should not require an hour, hour and a half of conversation. It's just way too many
Mm-hmm.
other things to talk about. So we cover everything from the basic pistol, which deals with grip, sight alignment, sight picture, follow through, breathing, trigger manipulation, and all of that, right? We cover that. We also deals with the psychological effect of after a shooting. We deal with how to interact with law enforcement. We deal with the ideal of the 5 elements of self-defense. We deal with the conversation around, and I had it in my mind and it jumped out just that quick. But we deal with host of selections, host of consideration. We deal with ammo types and ammo selection. We deal with accountability and shooting accountability. We deal with, and I'm just trying to think about some of the things we deal with. Um, Examples, right? We show a series of different videos, and we interrogate those videos to see what we can extract from those videos, so that the student can leave there and be more informed about, again, going back to your question a while ago, what all can you expect after a shooting, right? And again, as a lot of that has to do with if who the state's attorney was, who your attorney was, what you
Mm-hmm.
did and didn't do, what you said when you interacted with the police at the
Mm-hmm.
initial interaction. And so we deal with all of that.
I
Absolutely.
think that's really important, what you say,
Hmm.
in terms of what happened, you know.
Absolutely. At the scene of the shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. In fact, most cases are determined at the scene of the shooting. Whatever it is that you say or don't say usually strongly affects what's going to happen in the final analysis. And I have a saying that the object is to go home and stay home,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes you can go home, they'll do a little bit more research, and then you're not allowed to stay home. Now, I don't want no trouble from nobody, but there was a situation out here in Maywood where a guy got into an argument with a client at a barber shop, from what I understand, and all I have is hearsay, right? But he got into an argument with a guy at a barber shop, followed him outside, and ended up ultimately killing this guy right here in Maywood. Um, so his initial conversation held up with law enforcement. They let him go. As I understand, there was another video from the owner of the larger building that this barber shop was in, came out, and they was like, wow, that wasn't as cut and dry as we thought. So they went back and arrested this guy. And from, again, what I understand, this guy bailed out, was successful in bailing out, and he was fighting the case or whatever, going through that process. But I want to say a month, 2 months in, 3 months in, he died in his sleep. From what I understand, all of this is hearsay on my part, right? So the thing of it is when you have all of this hanging over your head, right? You're fighting this case and you're looking at 25, 30 years or whatever the sentences may be. That can wear a lot on you. And so again, back to your point, you have to really think about that. You have to really think about that and ask yourself, is this something I want to deal with? I have, and I'll close with this per your question in these first statements. The best fight that you guarantee, the only fight that you're guaranteed to win is the one that you're not in. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I start understanding and think about what I have to deal with if I shoot this person, that alone should make me say, I do not want to shoot this person until again, what? It gets to that must I shoot, right? Those little four things that we went through earlier. Can I, should I, must I, right? May I, right? So no. And I have a concept that says do not be an accommodationist. Do not accommodate people's stupidity. For every snake, there's a mongoose. For every monkey, there's a gorilla. And for every idiot, there's a fool. I ain't trying to be none of that for nobody. And so,
Mm-hmm.
whatever I can do to make sure that I'm not in that situation, that's a win for both of us. Me, because I don't get to have to shoot you, and for you, because you don't get shot, if that makes sense. And this is
Yes.
how, as gun owners, responsible gun owners with emotional and intellectual maturity, think about these situations. I'm not trying to put myself or my family in that situation.
And so it sounds like getting involved in this level of training is not just about having a weapon, a gun, but you become a weapon in a sense because of what you learn how to deal with things out here, because most people that don't have that level of consciousness, they're always they're in a state of shock and fear, and not to say that that might not happen either, but
Hmm.
you have, like you said, you have more of an emotional security about yourself. And so when situations come about, you're going to think about it,
All
and you're going to think about it in certain ways because of this training that you have had.
absolutely.
So,
And you better think about it all the way through, right? All the way through, because can you just imagine, sister, sitting up and so it's against the law to carry while you're intoxicated, right? Whether it's marijuana or alcohol. If you are at point oh 0.08, the same thing with driving. You cannot carry your firearm while you period, right? Whether you're walking, biking, or anything. If you're intoxicated, you're not supposed to have your firearm on you. But can you imagine what it's like to be intoxicated and doing something with your firearm, i.e., shooting someone, right? And now you woke in the morning and you sober and you asking yourself, did I have to do that? You know what I'm saying? But at this point,
mhm,
all of that's behind you. You got to look at what's in front of you. This court case, this 15, 20 years or whatever, right? And so here you have adults, and I mean 21. We know the human brain is still dealing with with its reptilian, and that the front has not been developed yet, where logic and reason sits at. But at 21, you're making the same mistakes that we talk to these young men and young women in juvenile temporary detention centers, that you made this mistake, you made that call, and now you're 15 years old and you're looking at 20, 30 years of your life being wasted just from this. And that firearm will put you in that same situation if you're not
mhm.
careful as an adult. As an adult. Yep.
Okay, well, two other points. We're getting, boy, this is a lot of information. We're almost at the top of the hour here.
Oh wow.
Um,
Yeah, that went
it's-
fast.
yes, it did. There's two other things I wanted to touch on, and that's home safety, and then taking your weapon out of state.
Okay. Hmm. The home safety, again, there's a couple of considerations for home safety. Um, and the main thing is making sure whoever do not have access, whoever should not have access to your firearm does not get access to your firearm, right? And so if you have a child in your house that's stuck on stupid, then they don't need to know where your firearm is at, and it need to be secured in a manner of which they cannot get it. And again, if we're talking about a handgun, when you leave the house, your gun should be leaving the house with you, right? And
Mhm,
excuse me. And just let me say this real quick. We do not, in my understanding, we do not carry weapons. We carry
mhm,
tools, and we will turn this tool into a weapon if we need be. I did home remodeling for a very long time. My hammer was always a tool. But if somebody came onto my job site trying to rob me or steal my tools through force, that hammer would then be turned into a weapon, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the same thing with the firearm. And so I want to discourage us from seeing the firearm as a weapon as much as it is as a tool that I would then turn into a weapon if it becomes necessary, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but back to your point that so making sure that people that should not have access to your firearms do not have access to your firearm, and that means have a quality safe in your house. So that's those individuals. Then when you start dealing with children, young children especially, what I recommend more than anything is to demystify the firearm. That is, let them see you interact with the firearm, and what I mean by that is putting it on in the morning, taking it off in the night at night, putting it wherever you're putting it, doing your dry practice at home, which I highly recommend for everybody to do. But doing your dry practice, respecting the fact, and talking to them, because one of the things about children is that when something is mysterious to them, right, it's a
Mm-hmm.
mystery. They become very curious, and in your absence, they always want to explore that curiosity, right? And
Right.
so you want to if I could use that word, overexpose them to it in a healthy way that they'll come to respect it, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll come to understand what it is. It's a tool, and it can hurt and all of that type of stuff. And so that's that piece. But then again, a safe for when you're away from home, or for people that's in your house that you do not want to have access to your firearm, and then exposure to children. Um, and so those are like really the two main, and of course, those on the anti-gun thing always talk about when the house is broken into and how guns are stolen, and while that do happen and then used in crimes and whatnot, while that do happen, again, a safe would do that, and you have a wide range of ways now to hide firearms in plain sight, especially handguns, right? In
Mm-hmm.
plain sight, and in some instances, even carbines, rifles, or shotguns or whatever, right? So that's that piece. Um, and so then what was that second one that you asked or mentioned, please?
Out of state, taking your
Out of state.
weapon out of state.
Yep, thank you. And so, as a concealed carry holder, there are apps, and what are these things called? You have apps and websites that will help you to understand what states your state license is recognized in, and so they'll give you those many of those same privileges as in their state, but it will be completely up to you to know what those state laws are. For example, in the state of Illinois, well, first of all, Illinois only give like concealed carry license to two or three other states. Outside of that, nobody else can come into Illinois with a concealed carry gun on them. As long as their gun is on them and they are in their car, they good to go in the state of Illinois. If they get out their car to pump gas, they have to leave their firearm in their car. We're talking about out of state people coming into the state of Illinois. However, because of this process of reciprocity, many states are either constitutional states that says that as long as you're in good standing with the law, yes, you can have a firearm. Or if your home state have granted you a concealed carry license, you're more than welcome to bring your firearm into our state and to a large degree enjoy all of the benefits that we give our citizens, our residents, right? But you do need to know different laws. For again, for like the state of Illinois, we cannot carry a firearm in a tavern or a bar, or
Mm-hmm.
depending on who you are, maybe a pub, right? But we can carry it in Rothschilds where they sell packaged liquor. Now, if we took our same firearm with our permit to, let's just say, Indiana, Indiana allowed for you to have a firearm in a liquor establishment that sells liquor, right? And so it's a wide range of those um, difference in state laws that you need to be aware of before you go to the state. Now, if you're not a concealed carry card holder and you're moving from state to state, then what you'll be doing at that point is just transporting your firearm. And what we recommend with that is to put your gun inside of a case, make sure that it's inaccessible and unload it. Inaccessible is in the trunk of a car, right? In a case, unload it, or in the rear of like your SUVs because you don't have a trunk, but in the rear of the SUV. But that's if you do not have a concealed carry license. And again, this is one of those reasons that whether you want to carry every day while you at home in the state of Illinois or not, okay, cool. But when you leave states and you go into some of these places now, especially now, in the climate, political climate that we find ourselves in, your gun does not need to be inaccessible. Your firearm needs to be ready and very accessible. And so, for no other reason to get your concealed carry, your Illinois state concealed carry, get it for that reason.
Wow. Nubian, this has been a wealth of information. Family, we have been speaking with Nubian of Aban Advantage Consulting
Hmm.
on firearms awareness and training. How can people get in touch with you?
Yep. So they can go to our website, www.aban, ABAN, the word advantage.com, or they can reach us at area code 804 453 2226. That number again is area code 804 453 ABAN, ABAN, which is 2226. Yep. Or our email is abanadvantage@gmail.com.
Okay, wonderful. Any closing remarks?
Oh, hey, again, it's better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war. Um, for those who know me or may see this, they know that I am a student of Baba Hannibal Tyrus Afrique, and he taught us the understanding that a shield is not made on the battlefield. That was one of his proverbs that he would always share with us. It's an African proverb that says, a shield is not made on the battlefield. And so, like anything else, this is not something that you're going to just rise to the occasion for. You have to take time, you have to use money, you have to use resources, you know what I'm saying, to get this type of training so that you can be ready. I would encourage everyone to get the Urbane Advantage and be ready. We will get you to a place. If you give us your time and your dedication, we will not fail you in training you and getting you to a place where you can move with confidence instead of false hope, right? Because we just have to have a skill set that will make sure, and not make sure, but improve our chances of getting back home to our loved ones. Yep,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you uh, not only for coming on our show tonight, but I want to thank you for doing this work. This is very important, and we need more responsible people out here. Um, and that's a part of what you're doing as well. So I want to thank you for what you're doing.
absolutely. And I thank you, sister. And I look forward to seeing the village out over the next, coming towards the end of this month. I don't want to impose my beliefs on anybody, but if I get an opportunity to see you during the end of this month, I look forward to it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. That you meant the Kwanzaa
Yes,
dinner?
absolutely. Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. Yep.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
Okay. All right, family. Well, thank you for coming tonight. Uh, Definitely consider the information that you heard tonight and how important it is. And as always, we want you to remember to support Black businesses. So have a good night.
You too, sisters. Take good care, family. All right, peace.